and welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and video show which brings you leadership lessons, knowledge and experience, and wisdom from hundreds, no, thousands of successful individuals from around the world. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe so you won't miss a new episode. I'm your host, Frits Bussemaker, and today I'm delighted and a pleasure to have a conversation with LJ Rich. LJ, welcome to the program.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. What an intro.
Hey, LJ, let me briefly, there are a couple of ways I can introduce you. And for all transparency's sake, we know each other from AI for Good from Geneva, but we're not going to cover that because what attracted me, you are a broadcaster, musician, and inventor. That's like the one-liner who you are. If you drill down, I see a BBC TV presenter. You present BBC's Click program. And then it becomes more interesting because then you are an after-dinner speaker, a musical keynote performer. I'm reading your website, a NASA data nerd, a mashup pianist, a coaster fan. Also something briefly to cover, a cancer graduate, and you graduated from Oxford in music. So again, welcome to the program. So tying all these exotic job titles to being a broadcaster, musician, and inventor, is all these unique job title names, is that part of your inventor profile or not?
What a fabulous question to start off with, and so well put together as well. I think that one of the most interesting parts about what I do is that everybody I meet has more than one job title these days. And it could be something that you do as a business and something that you do as a passion. It could be your vocation, the thing that you've always wanted to do, but you've never had the resources to do. And I think it's important to, as part of this introduction, mention that most of the jobs that I've done or the work that I've found myself doing has stemmed from this deep need to understand our humanity, to understand creativity, what moves us, what makes the world better, which can sound a bit trite on its own when you say it like that. But the reality is that when we exist and we exist together to sing, to play, to have amazing business ideas, to work out how to have a positive impact on the world, all of these things require a degree of flexibility. And I've never quite settled on a job title in all my time working. And if you come up with any ideas, I'm all ears. I'd love to hear what you think.
I'll be honest, I have the same thing, and I've been called an enigma. And maybe that's what the future is going to be. You have to be, I don't quite call it the jack of all trades, but I do recognize that you have different perspectives, your persona, and putting yourself in a box is not what you want to do, or what I would recommend people should not do.
Yes, I completely agree, actually. There is a real temptation as a human to put things in boxes and make them all neat. And everyone does that. You can even see this in AI with biases. People put these ideas in. But at the same time, those of us that don't quite fit, we feel a little uncomfortable being put into boxes. And as I've sort of grown older, I guess I've become a lot more confident about not really needing that box. And then I end up interacting with people who have probably had similar realizations along what does it really mean to be in this world. Oh, I'm really philosophical. We've only been 5 minutes in.
Well, we just started. But maybe that's something you learn once you grow older, that initially when you start your career, who are you? I'm a junior project manager, or I'm a consultant. So you are defined by the job title itself, and over life, after you get experience, I don't know what you do, but I need to get LJ Rich because I think you have something to offer I can use. So what you do is less relevant, and it is very much about it's your brand, which then is appealing for people. Like, tell me about what you're doing.
I guess where I found myself as a super creative person in and out of business environments, academic environments, all kinds of different places, what I feel I've been able to offer and what people tell me I offer is a way to reconnect with feeling inspired, a way to feel like things are possible. It's really easy in so many environments to get stuck in a rut, stuck in a routine where you have these wicked problems which are almost impossible to solve with the current way of thinking. And from my musical experience and from my background talking to so many CEOs and astronauts and hackers and artists and you name it, I've interacted with them. And I think from that, I get to offer a new perspective alongside this sense of my intuitive and well-studied theories on how creativity works. That when I sort of give my talks and I play the piano and I sing and I kind of talk about things and generate AI music specifically to an event, when I'm doing all of that, what makes me feel like I've been a success is if one person comes up to me afterwards and says, you know what, I really am thinking differently after your talk, or I'm going to pick my musical instrument up again, or I've been feeling so stuck, I've had such a hard time and I feel empowered to make choices and feel good about them being the right and courageous and difficult but beautiful choices. And I found this little weird niche, I guess, where I can perform and do the thing I love, which is connect with other people through art and music. And it's being responded to so well. It's an overwhelming sense of good fortune. I don't know, maybe the good fortune comes at all the hard work that I've put in, but that sense of right now, being really lucky to be alive, being very lucky to interact with all these people and being able to have an impact on social change in a way that isn't, what's the word, preachy, that isn't like I'm great and you're not. It's like we are all trying our best and we can learn and have fun at the same time. It doesn't have to be this sort of dry, here are the points to follow in order to make your business more successful, or here are the things you need to do in order to be happy when you close your eyes at night. It's so much more than that. And this drive for perfection that we're seeing everywhere from auto-tune to AI models and filters, it doesn't always work for people. And I guess sometimes people need to hear it.
Thank you, by the way. Now, okay, you describe brief, although we're still not certain what you actually do day to day. We'll get to that later. But maybe first, how did you get there? How did you end up where you are right now? Take us through that journey briefly.
Oh, that's a great question. I had a scholarship to the Royal College of Music when I was 11 and was fascinated by electronic music. Yeah. And I have perfect pitch and synesthesia. So I can hear something and the music decodes into colours in my mind's eye and I'm able to play everything orchestrated on the piano, anything that I've heard. And as I sort of grew into this skill, I didn't know at the time that not everyone saw the world that way. It took quite a long time for it to filter through that actually what I was able to do was of interest and value to other people. And so I always wanted to perform and never quite allowed myself to. And I was working as a sound engineer and a TV company came in and a famous TV presenter was presenting and I thought, that looks really fun. How do I do that? And started to audition. I ended up as one of the top technology salespeople on QVC, the shopping channel, which at the time was the 5th largest electronics retailer in the world. I'd always been fascinated by technology and electronics. And so I found myself talking about consumer technology and understanding the life cycle of these products. And I would be invited to, all these head offices and factories and warehouses. And I'd be given this amazing insight into what sells, what doesn't, what the human behavior is around certain technologies. And I was able to start predicting the trends to see what people's behavior were. Sort of, does that make sense? What people's behavior were? To see people's behavior. That makes more sense. Yeah. So I then started to make predictions as to where technology was going. And at the same time, I was transitioning from working on QVC to working on BBC Click as one of their presenters. And I specialised then in new technology, concept technology, research-led technology. I went to Japan and went to a whole bunches of universities or MIT to find out what the artists were doing with technology. Because for me, I think that's really that nexus of what's coming next. You look at the artists and see that, but we'll come to that.
Okay, now for those people you are now inspiring, was this hard work? Was this luck? Was this genes? So what do you have insight? What was the basic, you could say, condition which allowed you to get there?
First of all, do we ever arrive anywhere? This is always a journey. I certainly feel like I'm not where I want to be, but that doesn't mean that I can't enjoy where I am. And I think coming from personal situations where I've felt excluded in the past or left out, it's really important to me to promote a sense of inclusivity in whichever team I'm working in. And I think that you end up finding people that resonate with that. Is it luck? I think luck comes to you if you work for it. I've always said that inspiration is not this mythical thing that's bestowed upon us with luck. Oh, you're lucky and here's some inspiration that comes to you by some mysterious, unexplainable way. No, you sit and stare at that blank page and then inspiration will come to you, but you have to be ready for it. And I think part of that fear that people have about inspiration is that it won't come because it's a scary thought. Or maybe I'm not going to be inspired, but you know, having a blank piece of paper and staring at it like this, right? That's kind of intimidating. But if you kind of scribble on it, it's no longer. You can have your ideas, and you're going to have hundreds of terrible ideas. When I was a stand-up comic, I died on stage quite a few times. You have to do the bad stuff. And I think I get a little bit... What's the word I'm trying to find? When people say, oh, it's okay to fail, I think a lot of the times people are forgetting that you cannot fail in certain contexts. When you are relying on a job for an income, when you are having to work out how you're going to get through the day, I think the most important piece of knowledge I can pass on, perhaps, is the good days, the fun days. Those are easy. It's what do you do when you don't want to get out of bed? What do you do when you are crying in the bath? What do you do when you just don't want to do anything? How do you get yourself out of that? How do we build that resilience and make the space to feel like we're worth being inspired?
You make it sound easy, but you also make it sound like you figured out what the secret is. Well, I translate this to becoming resilient.
Yes, I think that's absolutely becoming resilient. And I did learn to become more resilient during the cancer treatments that I went through. I have a phobia of needles, and I had to...
Yeah, let's dive into that, because
Sure.
even your illness, for me, when you describe this as a cancer graduate, it also sounds like, okay, I'm going to put the fun back into life. That even I'm going to defy this very, you could say, bad disease. And okay, I'm going to beat it.
Yeah, I think however one has gone through a cancer journey, so many people have been touched by it. Either they've had to go through a treatment path or they've seen a loved one go through it. And I think that there's a lot of difficulty around facing one's mortality. And I lost my mum when I was very young, so I'd already faced that concept that people aren't around forever. And I think that when I'm on stage and that sense of joy that I have, it could possibly be mistaken for being frivolous, but it's completely the opposite. It's about being aware of the fragility of our existence, I guess. So when I got the diagnosis, I found it originally, it was really difficult. And I thought, well, hang on, I've learned how to do hard disk recording. You know, when I've learned how to do rudimentary coding, or driving, playing the piano. All of us have learned something. Perhaps I can learn resilience in the same way that I approach learning everything else, as in everything is teachable.
Mm-hmm.
And once that kind of hit me, this is what helped me as well. I feel like it's a very dangerous thing to presume I've got the answers to everybody else's problems. I don't. I've only got what helped me, and perhaps somebody can hear that and maybe they can come out with something that helps them.
No, I appreciate that context, but I was just triggered by the fact that a lot of people, and I recognize that a blank piece of paper is very scary if you need to write something. But I do recognize that one first line, getting that on the page, actually breaks the dam, and then you get the flow started. It's realizing that that is the way you can approach it, which I think is that's the key you have to find, and then you can get going.
Yeah.
Sounds like in a couple of cases you found the key to how you at least resolve this.
Yes, once you write, a lot of the time when I'm writing a piece for the BBC, or if I'm writing a talk or an introduction, I have two documents. One is my master document, and then one is my scrap document. And if something doesn't work, I just cut and paste it over to the scrap document, because it's really difficult to delete something that one has thought of, because it feels like you're letting go of something. Whereas if I put it into my scrap document, I'm not so worried. I can find it if I need it. The other thing I end up doing pretty much most of the time is I delete the first paragraph of what I'm talking about once I've written it. I think that the art of writing before editing is a skill. So you write, you blurt it all out, and then you can go back and edit it. And I'm sometimes quite careful about naming conventions when I'm looking at documents, for example. I'm really hot on versioning, which again doesn't sound like a creative thing to say. But it is the heart of creativity, is taking a chaos and making some kind of order from it and enjoying some of the chaotic elements. But it's almost like, strategies for creativity. Isn't that quite dry? And it's like, well...
Oh, so basically creativity is not anarchy. You're still... and by providing that structure, you allow more room for creativity. And you can actually basically find back something you have stored somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it's pure anarchy, you've lost it.
Yeah. It's this idea of the constraint is what makes something creative. If somebody says to me, play any song you want, it's much harder than somebody saying, play a power ballad, where you're starting to make it easier to have an idea within that.
Now, hey, thank you for that thought. Now, I'm just going to take you, if I look at your website, and what you do, if you have done some amazing things.
Thank you.
For me, what it sticks out is you try to make this as fun as possible. I'm looking at meeting Stevie Wonder, Stephen Wozniak, for the BBC Click.
Yeah.
You mentioned on a website, are these milestones, are these highlights, or was there other reason why you mentioned specifically these two people?
Well, apart from the fact that they both have a similar first name, and it sounds very good when you write it into a paragraph, I think when you meet these incredible humans that have had such an impact on the world, there is this... I think those two people specifically stood out to me in the way that they held themselves, the way that they were, the vibe, for want of a better word. And I say this as a sort of scientifically minded person, somebody's vibe. It sounds really esoteric. But yeah, it was an inspiring thing. I've been incredibly lucky. I've met and get to call friends some formidable humans who have helped shape humanity. And it's unbelievably cool. So perhaps what I was trying to do with that paragraph, meeting Stevie Wonder and Steve Wozniak, is showing this amazing depth of... You've got this sort of ultra creativity in Stevie Wonder, and then you've got this sort of ultra technology creativity in Steve Wozniak. Why can't we see creativity across the spectrum. Why does talking about standardization have to be boring? Why does talking about business process reengineering, why does that have to be dry? Now, I'm not saying that surgeons should be cracking jokes in the operating theatre. I'm not saying that at all. And musicians will know when they are in a flow state, when you have that complete command of where you are, where you're going, that sense of presence. It's not about laughing or telling a joke, but it is about being present and connected and aware and ready. And I feel like so many people I speak to say how much they benefit from just having a thought of, oh, how am I holding my body? Oh, what would happen if I did this? And do you see what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm following. Yeah. Now, would these people would you consider them role models? Do you have role models? Do you have people I've learned so much from these people?
Oh, wow. I strongly believe that every single person I meet, I can learn something from. We are in a hyper-connected world.
Yeah.
Social media is giving us hundreds, if not thousands, of ideas that have been tailored to our algorithms. And yet, meeting people in real life, this serendipity comes in, the algorithms are broken. And a person that I might meet and talk to, I don't know, on a train or at an event, there's always an opportunity to ask, what are your challenges at the moment? What do we have in common? And in a world where right now there's a lot of profit generated by rage and division, but in reality there are still these connections being made between humans. So in answer to your question, who are my role models, I guess it's everyone from even people who are struggling. There's something that I can learn and maybe teach. It's like, what's the word? I think it's dangerous to just talk about well-known people like, I don't know, Leonardo da Vinci and Mozart and Daphne Oram, people who are pioneers in their field, without talking about, the friends that send you a text message when you're feeling down, or somebody else who you've been mentoring, who asks for your advice and you're able to help them. So I would say my role models change and evolve depending on what I'm doing.
Got it. And so would you also present this as an advice to those young people out there? Be inspired as many people as possible as you can.
Oh, yeah, that's lovely. No, I think for someone who is younger, I think it's very tempting to try and offer advice to my younger self. But really, you're you. And I suspect that somebody watching this is going through their own situation. And I think that self-awareness is such a difficult thing to come to terms with. I've spoken not in public really about this idea of the unbearable truth, the thing that we hide from ourselves. And if we can work out what that is and address it, then it's the first step to doing the next thing on our path. And so I think for me, the unbearable truth was that I was scared to perform. And as I started to think, well, hang on, I can learn this like I can learn anything else. This is why I do presenter training for organisations as well, because presenting is a skill. Like anything else, everything is teachable. But once I was able to say, right, hang on a minute, this fear, I'm aware of it now and I can mitigate it. So I think my message to those of you who are trying to get out of feeling stuck is approach it like you would any other lessons that need to be learned. Seek out the person or the organisation or a YouTube video and try your best to just absorb a little bit. And also not just from one source either. I think it's really easy, especially now, to just watch 100 YouTube videos by the same person, but without the cleansing aspect of more than one point of view, it's harder to improve if you're just following one line. So
One check now. How often do you get the question, yes, great advice, but it's easy for you?
I don't ever get someone saying that to me, because I don't think I come across as if something's easy for me. Maybe something like music, which is intuitive, but I've also played so much and I think so much about music. And when people say, "Oh, you're really talented," I wish I could play. I could never do that, and I could never be a brain surgeon, but I can still admire the thought and the work that someone's put in. And yeah, of course, I could watch a YouTube video on it. But the whole aspect of this sounds so easy. I've never made a secret of what I find easy and what I don't. And everyone has an affinity for something. So you don't fit into a particular box, but there are things that you, Fritz, have a special affinity with. Innovation, technology. I know that these are things that you are, really into. Somebody else might be really into, I don't know, farming or woodworking or writing. There are always going to be these peaks on somebody's graph of capabilities and competence where they are finding things easy. And what I'm saying is, if you're finding something difficult, that's fine, but it doesn't mean that's it, I'm going to stick here. It's like telling a kid they're bad at maths. Why would you do that? They just need to be finding the teaching method that fits with the way their brain works, and have patient and supportive and thoughtful holding whilst teaching,
Okay, so that's interesting. So you would say the classic response would be, hey, you're bad at maths.
Uh-huh.
So then you have two options. One, okay, just don't do math and do something else and explore talents.
Mm-hmm.
What you're saying is, and I like that approach, is no, you can still do math, but you have to explore the different ways you could learn math because it's all learnable.
Yeah, I think so. And I think to get to a certain point of skill where you might find, for example, I will spend a lot more time working on some of the music things, or if I've got a show coming up and I'm preparing for an event, then I'll spend time doing that. And I enjoy like doing AI art and painting and drawing, but I don't do that as often. So my skill levels at drawing will never reach the levels of my musical confidence. But that's not to say I'm not enjoying learning how to do it. Now, for a kid that's being told they're bad at maths, or they're telling themselves that they're bad at maths, it's more perhaps they've not seen the parallel where maths can help. So a perfect example is I was chatting with an 80-year-old lady who had been given an iPad and she just wasn't really engaged with it at all. And I said, did you know that you can use this to take pictures of your magazines, and you can make the text bigger, and you can also use this to take pictures of recipes in those magazines so that you don't have to cut them out? And suddenly this person has a use case for the technology and was able to use the iPad for more than that as a result. But it's that switch where people go, oh, hang on, I hadn't thought of it like that. That's the aim from what I do, I guess.
Oh, well, what I'm definitely going to take with me from what you said is, if you're bad at something, don't focus on what you're good at, but also focus on how you can change the way you learn something. I really like that thinking.
I think it was Dr. Dweck who talks about this thing, the growth mindset. So I can't do this simply becomes I can't do this yet. I expect you probably know about that already.
Okay, no, it's good. Good to put that in context. I have two more topics I briefly would like to cover you, and time is running extremely fast. You mentioned in the beginning you have synesthesia,
Uh-huh.
so a phenomenon that causes sensory crossovers.
Mm-hmm.
When you discovered that, did that make you feel elated? Hey, I can do something nobody else can do, or did you feel an outcast? I can do something because nobody else can do it.
Oh, do you know, the main thing was relief. It was like, this condition has a name. Are you kidding me? The whole time I would be in a restaurant and I'm thinking the food isn't matching the music, or I'd think, oh, something's out of tune, it's the wrong color, or all of this. I thought that everybody else was able to handle the world much better than me, and that I was broken because I was being overwhelmed by all of this sensory input. And then it was like somebody switched on a light when I found out 10 years ago, and someone said, oh, yeah, sis.
Okay, follow-up question on that. If the food is out of color with the music or the room, and it becomes right,
Mm-hmm.
are you the only one who then would recognize that, or also the people who don't have that phenomenon, do they also see that it's a better result?
This is a brilliant question, and I normally answer it thusly. You would know if you liked a photograph or a piece of art, but
Mhm.
somebody who has studied or has an intrinsic knowledge of that would be able to say, this piece of art is using the rule of thirds, or there's a lot of contrast, or you've got leading lines where you can see this picture. So in the same way that I'd be able to say, oh, the reason you like this piece of music is that there's a resolution at the end here, or this is a really familiar chord progression. And with the synesthesia, the music and colours for me just means I'm able to perceive something and explain it, perhaps. That I feel like it's almost like an assembly language. I can point to something and go, this is why you like this. This is why this works. And so that's kind of how I explain it. And I love the idea that other people have these skills, being able to point at something and go, this is why. And someone else goes, oh, yeah, you're right. So,
So I can imagine that having that in combination with the perfect pitch makes it, I mean, you have an ideal combination of, let's say, genes which allow you to do something which can make a lot of people very happy.
yeah, that's the plan. I love to give the chords to musicians who've been struggling with a song that they want to learn. I go, oh yes, it's E, G, D, and I can see their faces. I mean, I'm talking about Western European scales. There's all kinds of different scales in the world, and so yes, I'll go off on one about that. The idea of data diversity and musical diversity in AI models, but no, this isn't the platform for that.
Hey, um, LJ, I've really loved talking to you, and we haven't covered what it means to be a NASA data nut, a coastal fan, all these exotic names and titles you've given yourself. I'm going to skip that. That's maybe for a second time. I want to end with what I found out is the most cool thing ever you've done, and that's driving the Hogwarts Express.
Oh, yes, that was so fun. It does kind of make a sense in a weird way. Yes, I'm a roller coaster fan. I have been for a long time. For me, movement in space is like composing music, so it's very inspiring musically for me. I've always liked infrastructure and trains and maps, and there's something about the kind of paths of desire and the design. And so I was filming years ago this documentary about Harry Potter, and we went to film at the Hogwarts Express stations, and I just got chatting to the driver as the train was turning around, because we were originally just filming in the carriages, and I leant forward and I said, oh, is that the regulator? And they said, yes, yeah. So that's the reverse then, so these are the levers on the train. He says, would you like to come up on the footplate and have a look? At which point I was completely, yes, can I bring the cameraman as well? And the cameraman was also incredibly happy as well. And so I just said to the camera person, please, can you just roll? So press record and let's have fun. And then we edited it together. Are you a fan of trains then and locomotives?
No, not particularly. Maybe I'm a fan of Harry Potter. I read
Oh,
very first book before it became a phenomenon.
uh-huh.
So I was very way ahead at the beginning of the curve. I read that first book and I read it in like a couple of hours. I just could not let it down. And it's one of those family things to do over Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
the girls get back home. Okay, we're going to rewatch all the Harry Potters, and it's always the first one where everybody wants to see. So it's it's also a little bit that nostalgic uh, feeling idea. Oh, yeah, I would love to have done that. Who knows? But
Yeah.
goes for you that you seize the opportunity because that's also a lesson learned here. If it's an
Yeah.
opportunity, you see that, go for it.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's the spontaneous stuff that works out as a kind of lifelong thing that you're proud of. And my old college was the model for the Hogwarts main hall. So I found myself going back to my old college to film there as a result of doing this documentary. But yes, that's a really lovely way of putting it, making the most of an opportunity and finding the joy in something is actually a challenge, but it's a challenge that's worth attempting.
Hey, LJ, thank you for allowing me to make most of the opportunity. Put
Oh,
it.
thank you. It's been lovely chatting.
Hey, look, I think we're going to be. I'm going to say to be continued. And for now, thanks so much.
Yes. Oh, definitely.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.